Welcome to UNCAGED, a show that celebrates thought leadership from today's top business leaders. The program provides a voice to amazing executives from around the globe who are shaping the world of business today and mapping the path to the commerce of tomorrow. Today, we're speaking with Tino Dietrich. Hey, Tino, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm very, very well, Tino. I'm excited to learn more about your business. Tino is the founder of Ella Paradis. Ella Paradis is an e-commerce startup in the always interesting space of sensual and sexual wellness. We'll go through what Ella Paradis and the team at Ella Paradis are working on. But before we get there, Tino, tell me a little bit about yourself and your career.
Sure. Pleasure. So I'm originally from Germany. That's where I pretty much grew up. Been on and off the U.S. Since I went to college here to UC at Syracuse. So we've been always between two worlds, so to say. I would call myself an entrepreneur bahad. Probably started when I was about 6. I took all my toys and put them out on the street and sold them because I wanted to buy one of those boxes where you could build something. And then my mom didn't find that very good.
Oh, that's so funny. That's a great story, though.
So yeah, I always had something. And in school, I actually founded the German Amateur Golf Championships. So it was only among schools, and then later on the German Golf Association, which is like the PGA of Germany, took that and built the amateur championships. So There's always something going on. At that time, I convinced Audi, the car company, to sponsor the school championships. And I remember well the discussions because, they were like 15 and 16-year-old kids, and they said they can't afford an Audi, and I said, well, one day they will, and it's better to join the journey early. So
my God, you were given a gift. I tell you, you knew exactly what to say.
So yeah, I've done a lot of things in my life, from energy drinks to shipbuilding to you name it. So I've been around the world. I worked in Asia for quite some time. And that has helped me in the past few years to not only build our supply chain there, but also to make sure that it maintains, especially during the last couple of years that have been a bit challenging.
Yeah, well, so let's dig deeper into Ella Paradis. This is an e-commerce business, very exciting space, and in the sexual wellness area, which is in fact actually obviously a very exciting and expanding market space. So tell me a little bit about what Ella Paradis is working on and how's it going?
So obviously people say that, when it comes to sexual health, people always look at one side, but it is, and that's what I'm trying to do always early on, is trying to kind of lay the landscape of what it also entails. And it's not only pleasure, but it is also health. And it is closely related to mental health. And people don't necessarily connect the two right away. But I always point out people who try and have a baby, right? If you have to try hard, you understand how much pressure there is involved and whatnot. And there are dysfunctions, from erectile dysfunction to other dysfunctions that obviously have a toll too on people. And we're in the midst of it. We obviously cater to the pleasure side of things, to the fun side of things, but we also address all the other departments, including but not limited to menopause and the other topics I just mentioned.
Yeah, tell me a bit about the business. I mean, how has it grown over the years? Did you start with one product, or has it always been a wide range of products, and how has it evolved?
Yeah, it was my European background. Obviously, I had a bit of a different point of view when I look at this, and I was astonished to see when I started with my co-founders in 2016 that the U.S. was so far behind, but it's also because the subject itself is very taboo in the U.S. So what we actually did is I said, I don't know what people will buy and how they react and whatnot. So I didn't consider myself as an expert. I just saw the void in the marketplace, and I said to myself, if women can't shop for things like the day-to-day stuff they are looking for when it comes to intimate health, the same way that they shop for clothes or handbags,
Mm,
that is a problem. So I identified that problem, the void, so to say, the gap in the market, and then I still didn't know what to do. And so what we did is we uh, try to find someone who would do drop shipping with us, right? Like Zappos in the early
right.
days.
Hmm.
And the issue we had is that most of the companies we spoke to, they didn't have any API integration. They were not set up for e-commerce. It was a very old school industry. And they said, hey, you can send us a fax. And I said, I cannot send you faxes like that, because I'm looking at thousands of orders. Obviously, at that time, we didn't have one, but that was the vision.
Yeah.
So to scale right away, we did find one distributor who started to work with us, and this is how it all, when it all started in
Hmm.
2017. Since then, we've really doubled sales every year until last year.
Wow. So, I mean, it's a really interesting space. And clearly, I think you've highlighted a lot of things that get discussed when I would say people discuss kind of companies that offer products in this space. It's a little
Mm,
taboo for the US market because people get a little nervous around these topics. But I mean, the reality is that it's absolutely critical for health. And it's also absolutely critical, as you just mentioned, for mental health.
mm.
Tell me a little bit about what's happening in the broader product space for you guys, and how is this industry evolving? It seems to me that it seems to be thriving and kind of is coming into a new phase of openness.
Yeah, yeah. So I used to be involved in online dating, and I saw very similar patterns, so to say. What happened in the early days when it was online dating, when people met online, they would never reveal that to their friends and family. They made up stories, oh yeah, we met whatever, in the by accident in the mall or this or that. And it was always funny because people felt ashamed. And
Mm,
today, online dating is as popular as any other form of dating, right?
yeah, absolutely. I
So
mean, it's very common to find people that have met online now. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And when it started, it was almost like you met in a brothel or something. It's like very taboo. So I think what we see here is that people start to open up for the general understanding that sexual health is a very important component of overall health, right? And happiness. And you and I wouldn't be sitting here talking to each other if our parents didn't have sex. So sex is a very natural a process in life, right?
Yeah,
And
it's
that
very
we got to have it
human.
healthy and happy. So I think this is the core component of what we do offer, and what the basic idea is behind it.
That's great. Well, let's shift gears a little bit and talk
Yeah.
about the last couple of years. I'm curious to see how your company fared
Mhm.
during the pandemic and perhaps some of the learnings that came from that period and how you've implemented those things, Ella Paradis.
Yeah. So, but right before the pandemic, we started to shift towards our own private label. We
Okay.
started to produce our own product. I was in China more than I was anywhere else during that time. And I've visited so many factories and shops over there. I then identified who we want to work with, and we started to kick that off. That was right before the pandemic.
Hmm.
And then the pandemic hit, and what we when we looked at this, I saw it early on because I had ties in Asia, so I saw what was going on over there. I had very strong ties to Europe, obviously, Germany. I saw what was going on there. So to me, it was just a matter of time when this would hit the US too.
Yeah.
And was two options: double down or go and hide. We doubled down, and that was the right way to go. We actually doubled down on our own private label because we started to build that out quickly. um,
Hmm.
the advantage in our space, maybe compared to, let's look at sneakers or shoes or handbags, is there's very little brand awareness in our industry.
Hmm.
So it wasn't like you were going against the Nikes or the Adidas or something, right? So we were able to establish that, and our motto was early on: fair price and great quality. And I think that hit a nerve right there. So we've been working closely together with our partners in Asia to make sure that the supply chain did not get.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to ask you about that
Mm,
question, Tino,
yeah.
because I mean, the supply chain seems to have really been a barrier for so many in industries. How were you able to keep that going?
Yeah, so what we saw was the national brands we were selling through drop shippers and other vendors. That was always an issue with something. Um, Things were late or they didn't show up at all. And it's very difficult to explain that to customers if they buy something that the product is not coming or not coming at all. And the customer service has a tough time. And so with our factories in Asia, we kept a very close relationship, and we ordered enough to be able to fulfill. And I'd say that was one of my advantages was my Asian experience, right? I knew how to work around certain issues and how to get stuff out there, even though nobody else was getting stuff out there. And I would say I have very, very, very solid and good partners.
Yeah, it sounds to me like you did some of the right things where you maybe were ahead on ordering, so you had a little bit of wiggle room on that, and
Yeah.
then the relationships. But certainly, I think general we still find ourselves in a strained supply chain across the board.
Yeah.
But it sounds like your experience definitely helped that. I mean, Tina, when you're looking at this year, 2022, we're kind of
Mhm.
coming out of the pandemic. I know that you're based in the Miami area, as am I. So, we recently had the Formula One here. So people are out and partying and, really trying to live their best lives again. What do you see for this year and what do you think it holds for Ella Paradis?
In general, I think certain industries are going to see some very tough times. I'm always astonished that we are where we are today, and not just looking at the markets, but I think the markets, when you look at large companies like Amazon and others, they're all very much affected by what you just pointed out. So it's catching up, I would say, and we you never know, will it go on and how long? We don't know, right? I
Mhm.
think we all were sitting there or standing on the 31st of December celebrating New Year's Eve and said, hey, this is
Mhm.
going to be a great year. Just a few weeks later, there's the war going on in the Ukraine. And so you never know what the future holds, in the back of their hand, so to say. And
Yeah.
I think we need to take the learnings from the past 2 years and understand that times are just more volatile, and you need to really understand how to run and build the business. And I think cash flow is essential. Cash flow
Mm.
will be essential. And I think overall things are going to get back to a new normal. And that new
Right.
normal is what we all define. It's not written, and that chapter is not yet written. And we're
Right.
all writing it. You're writing it right now. I'm writing it right now. And it depends on us how it's going to end.
Will you continue to be focused on building out the Ella Paradis brand? Is that kind of a big shift for you guys or?
We early on, as I mentioned before, we wanted to go into health, and we're actually shifting more towards mental health and the health
Great.
component. So that was something we wanted to do pre-pandemic. Then the pandemic came, we had to adjust, but that really is what we're doing. We're pushing over, and I recently stepped down from my position as CEO, and now just driving more of the vision and the strategic idea behind it as a business owner or board member. And
Yeah.
it gives me time for the strategic discussions, which I feel what you just mentioned, like what's going to come this year. I think that's really what you need to look at, right? It's almost like
Yeah.
playing chess and running all these different scenarios.
Yeah.
What if this, then that, right? So, and at the same time, you need to keep both hands at the steering wheel, driving through the ocean, the storm, and the rough waters, right?
Yeah, no, I hear you. Well, I mean, it does seem to be a space that will continue to grow. And I think that the way that you outlined your philosophy is quite interesting, where you take quite a holistic perspective, thinking about how sexual wellness is connected to your broader health as well as mental health and extending into those areas. Before we go, Tino, tell me a little bit of how someone can get in touch with you if they're interested in learning more about what you guys do.
So our website is Ella, ELLA, and then Paradis, which is spelled like paradise, no E at the end, .com.
Excellent. So they should visit Ella Paradis, buy lots of products. And I'd love to hear the journey you're on. Tino, thank you so much for being on Uncaged today, and we look forward to having you back.
Thank you so much. Me
All
too.
right.
Thank you.
All right. Cheers.
Bye-bye.